Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for today, I am going to be reading chapter 10. And let's get started. Chapter 8. As the trio exited Bakugo's car, both Izuku and Bakugo tried to forget that conversation in the car. Forget that the conversation in the car never happened. They were in complete denial, yet both boys were confused by the fuzzy feeling that had just begun to subside. Uraka, however, was not about to drop how adorable she believes they were together. She believes they were together. Much to both Izuku and Bakugo's distaste, now that they were taking their few last steps up to Momo's gate, Uraka, however, was not about to drop how adorable she believes they were together. Much to both Izuku and Bakugo's distance, now as they were taking their last few steps up to Momo's gate, Izuku was praying that Uraka wouldn't bring up the conversation with the rest of the class. His praying ended up slipping out of his mouth, finding its way to Uraka's ears. How am I meant to not bring that up with the class? She winced, crossing her arms to show how much she didn't like that idea. Because it's embarrassing, Izuku whispered to his friend, trying his best to make it so Bakugo wouldn't hear him. How is it? Izuku covered her mouth with his cupped hands, his bandages doing a rightful good job to blocking out the rest of Uraka's resort. He glanced daggers at his friend, which was one sight to see. Izuku almost never got angry at anyone, and ever since his depression really began to show, he absolutely never had more than two emotions with people, either fake happiness or cold sadness. Besides that he was usually motionless. Of course, though, he still had good days. Today seemed to be one, and it had a rightful good reason why. It was his birthday. Uraka, please, he begged. He begged, his glare turning more into a pout. Uraka giggled through Izuku's cupped hands, finding this whole ordeal hilarious. She nodded her head, trying her best not to laugh. He moved his hand away from her face, and she continued to stifle her giggles. Okay. She looked to Bakugo, who only a few feet ahead of them. She looked at Bakugo, who was only a few feet ahead of them, only to meet his bloody red eyes. She smiled at him, then turned to Izuku. From the corner of her eyes, she saw Bakugo huff and turn his own head back around. I don't think he heard, she stated, taking one last glance at the blonde boy. Izuku let out a sigh of relief. Another thing came to Uraka's mind. You're acting more like yourself today, Deku. She gave him a warm smile and hugged him. I'm so glad. We missed you. Izuku glanced up at her, a warm feeling, one he hadn't felt in at least a year, returned to his heart. He hadn't hung out with anyone over the past year, since he usually tried to spend so much time as possible with his mother, so hanging out with Uraka hadn't happened in forever. Just over these past days, he felt some weight drift off his shoulders, yet he believed it wouldn't be gone for long. He just got all his old weight stacked back on him in just a few seconds of being with his father, and from all the times that his father told Izuku that he couldn't get rid of him, Izuku believed that he would have to run in with his father. And this warm feeling would disappear. He shook her off with the mindset. She frowned, feeling her chest tighten. She had a terrible thought that not too much had changed. However, had whoever had hurt him had done in whoever had hurt him had done in a way where he would need that extra push in the right direction to get out of the place he is in now. And that is exactly what Uraraka was hoping his soulmate would be able to gift to him. She gave a determined glare at Bakugo. She didn't know why, but she had a feeling, one that... "We're fucking here, Ponytail," Bakugo's voice rang out at the microphone that was planted on Momo's gate. With that, the gate opened without any sound, oiled so much that it was silent. Without a word, they began walking to Momo's front door. All around them was luxurious and extremely expensive status, angles and different animals that were carved from delicate stone were placed aimlessly around the large garden, which led up to a massive red mansion, gold-swirled and twisted with the deep red wood that created the structure of the house. They continued up the black stairs that led up to the dramatically sized dark oak double doors. Bakugo have the doors a loud knock and waited. After a few milliseconds, it swung open to reveal a black-haired girl with a massive smile. "Finally, the birthday boys have arrived." She beckoned them inside with her hands. Bakugo didn't even move. However, so Uraraka had to push him inside. He groaned and entered after a few seconds of the small girl trying to push him inside. "You remind me of my aunt," he gruffly said to Momo. Izuku caught into that pretty quickly, saying Bakugo didn't have any aunts. Masuki was an only child, and so was his father. That meant the only person Bakugo could refer to was Inko, whom Bakugo hadn't called aunt since they were merely 4 years old. This surprised Izuku, since Bakugo hadn't seen Inko in maybe 9 years. He had with Masuki, but it still had been maybe 4 years since they had come over. My mom is like that, Deku mumbled, scratching the back of his neck. Bakugo chuckled, turning to peer at the greenette. "Yeah, no shit. She's the most overjoyed person in the whole planet." Right as Bakugo said that, he remembered the small comment Izuku had made about Inko and regretted saying that. Izuku's eyes dropped to the ground, and Bakugo felt a little bit guilty. Guilty? Bakugo didn't feel guilty, right? Momo and Uraraka didn't see this encounter as they were already a way ahead of them. Happily chatting and planning the night out. Bakugo looked forward one last time before flicking Deku on the forehead. Deku squeaked and shot his head back, covering himself with his arms. Bakugo watched the boy with a frown. "What the fuck did he do to you?" Bakugo whispered under his breath, too quiet for Izuku to hear. He looked at the shaking wood that now was standing, covering his face with his hands and shaking. Bakugo felt a twinge in his heart. He stared at the helpless boy, the one who had known almost his whole life, that one that had almost beat Bakugo at a 1-to-1 combat, the one who used to be so strong, who used to look at everything with an air of interest and intelligence, who was now a shell of what he used to be. Bakugo took a hesitant step forward and resetted his hand to the smaller boy's shoulder. Izuku recoiled from the touch, stepping back in fear. "Deku?" Bakugo's voice cracked as he watched Izuku step away from his touch. For some reason, it made Bakugo terrified. It made his chest burn and ache. Izuku's head snapped up in an instant, snapping out of the small episode he found himself having as he thought of his mother. He glanced around at his surroundings and let out a sigh of relief, let his arms fall to his side, and glanced up at Bakugo. Sorry. And with that, Izuku tried to push past Bakugo and head to Momo's living room. Bakugo stepped aside, watching as the still shaking boy walked away from him. Bakugo felt his heart dropped as the previous moments relayed in the back of his head. What did that son of a bitch do to you? He whispered, clenching his fist until his knuckles turned white. Hey, Baku bro, come on, get over here. Hey, Baku bro. Hey, Baku bro, come over. Hey, Baku bro, come on, get over here, Kirishima shouted from the living room, leaning back so he could just barely see Bakugo's figure at the end of the hall. Bakugo snapped out of his own thoughts and began towards Momo's large seating area. The people who had decided to come were sat in a circle. Hey, Bakugo, Mina greeted the blonde with a smile. He didn't respond as expected, and instead he took a glance around the circle. The people who decided to show up were Todoroki, Jiro, Ida, Kaminari, Mina, Zero, Sue, and Uraka, and Momo. Bakugo grunted as he watched Mina happily pat the spot next to her while staring at Bakugo. Come on, Bakugo! She clapped her hands together as Bakugo accepted and went over to the seat, popping down with a groan. Now what? He grumbled at the group of people. Holy shit, dude, I can't believe you actually came. Kirishima broke the silence, grinning. I was fucking forced here, Bakugo responded, crossing his arms over his chest. Anyways, how about Momo began, but before she could finish, she got interrupted by Kirishima, let out a shrill gasp. Midoriya, what happened to you? Izuku snapped his head up and staring into Kirishima's eyes. He had forgotten that he was covered in bruises and cuts, since his pain was a normal feeling for him. Oh, nothing really. I just being clumsy. Deku lied, giving out a small grin. Kirishima glanced at him and opened the mouth to respond, but Bakugo cut him off by elbowing him in the side. Kirishima looked at Bakugo in surprise. Did Bakugo just back up Izuku? No. He was just being a dick, right? Anyways, like I was about to say, how about we play a game? Momo stated, irritated. Ooh, what about spin the bottle? Mina suggested, clapping her hands. What's spin the bottle? Todoroki asked blankly. Mina gasped and glared at Todoroki in disbelief. You don't know what spin the bottle is? Then we have to play. Mina, that game is inappropriate, and with that the group sat through one of Ida's lectures. Then what is a good game to play? Mina winced, throwing her hands up in defeat. What about Truth or Dare? Sue suggested, tapping her chin with an index finger. Uraka clapped happily and nodded. Perfect, she yelled in delight. The rest of the group nodded their heads in agreement. Who wants to go first? Momo asked, adding as an offer thought. Maybe to Midoriya. It is his birthday. He gave her a certain and uncomfortable look and shook his head. Someone else could start. Okay. Bakugo, truth or dare? Mina asked, glaring at the blonde beside her. Dare, I'm not a pussy. Mina snorted at Bakugo's response. Okay then. I dare you to call Midoriya Izuku for the rest of the game. She giggled as she heard Bakugo groan in distance. Fuck that, he shook his head. Is someone a chicken? Mina pouted and began flapping her arms like chicken wings and making chicken noises. Fuck no, that's just dumb as fuck, he yelled and crossed his arms tighter around his chest. Then just accept defeat and do it. Bakugo groaned in irritation. Fine, whatever, fucking raccoon eyes. He finally agreed. Pink cheeks, Truth or dare? He asked, giving her a death glare. She gulped and answered with a dare. In a squeaky voice, I dare you... She gulped and answered with dare in a squeaky voice. I dare you to sit on Asui's lap for the rest of the game, he responded with an evil smirk. Uraka turned bright red, but complied, walking over and plopping herself on Sue's lap. Deku, truth or dare? She nearly whispered, bright red. Dare. It seemed more, dare? It seemed more like a question than an answer. He was unsure if he should break the chain of dares or not. Uraka's face went a little less red, and her evil grin planted itself on her features. Izuku gave an audible gulp, and reverted eye contact with Uraka. I dare you to call Bakugo Koski hubby for the rest of the game, she yelled in triumph. What? He yelled, turning bright red. You heard me. Call Bakugo. I heard, he yelled again, covering his face. So, do you accept? No, he answered, covering his bright red face. Okay, fine, then call him darling or asshole. She gave both boys a smirk. What? He covered his face again, very uncomfortable. That's no better. That's no better. Whoa, Uraka, calm down with the dares. That's a little over the top, Kirishima stated, watching the whole ordeal with a hesitant aura. What? Did you see what Bakugo made me do? She pouted at the redhead, irritated her predicament. Yeah, but Midoriya isn't Bakugo, he resorted, unsure if he should get involved. So, it would make them both uncomfortable. She smirked at Izuku and Bakugo again. I don't know, Uraka. Maybe just have him call Bakugo Koski. Then they could call each other by their first names. Uraka winced, but nodded. Fine. Deku, I dare you to call Bakugo Koski. Izuku noticeably turned less red and covered his face. Fine. And with that, the night continued. Okay, guys, that was all for this chapter, and I will see you soon. Bye.